My baby sister Ashley had the distinction of being the problem child of our family. As a newborn, she preferred to sleep during the day, then would spend nights crying and keeping our whole family awake. We hoped she would grow out of it, but as she became a toddler, her baby cries became screams about monsters under the bed, in the closet, in the corner, wherever her active imagination wanted to place them. She'd start wailing and beg Mom to stay in her room. Mom would lay on the floor until Ashley fell asleep, then try to quietly sneak out. She wouldn't be gone from the room 5 minutes before Ashley's screams brought her back in.
It got bad enough that eventually our parents put her in my room. Having someone constantly with her dramatically improved the situation for everyone but me. She frequently whimpered while sleeping, which was distracting enough, and multiple times throughout the night would start whispering frantically to me, Nicole, are you awake? Nicole, I think there's a monster under my bed."
At first I tried to be the dutiful big sister and would check under the bed or in the closet, but as this became a nightly occurrence, I became more and more annoyed. However, she seemed to be improving with me, and eventually I had the brilliant idea of giving her a flashlight that she could use to shine the light into her closet or in the corner to show herself that nothing was there. At the same time, I got myself a nice pair of earplugs, and between her newfound weapon and my newfound quiet, all was well.
Luckily, she did seem to grow out of the monster phase and began blessedly sleeping through the night. We tried to give her a room of her own again, but she begged to stay with me, saying I keep the monsters at bay. Knowing that sharing a room and sleeping was better than having my own but waking up to screams in the middle of the night, I agreed to the arrangement, and my parents called me their savior. For a while, things were great. Perhaps because we shared a room for so many years, we grew closer than most sisters would who were separated by so many years. Our 7-year age difference made it difficult to have an equal relationship, but she looked up to me and was always loving and respectful of me. For my part, I felt a fierce protectiveness of her and loved her unconditionally.
Things began to change when I moved away for college and she started junior high. We talked on the phone frequently and she confided that she was having problems sleeping. She told me she kept waking up in the middle of the night, swearing there was someone in the room with her. She hadn't slept with a flashlight since she was a kid, but had assumed the habit, constantly checking corners, closets, and anywhere shadows could gather. On my trips home, she began to look worse and worse, her face pale and deep rings under her eyes. The lack of sleep was beginning to affect her personality, and she was getting annoyed and angry constantly. She was insistent there were figures in her room at night, though none of us ever saw them.
Just before I came home for a break, my parents finally became concerned enough to take her to a doctor. They couldn't find anything physically wrong with her and recommended a therapist. Ashley wasn't bothered going at first, but the therapist told us when a person is as severely sleep-deprived as my sister, the mind starts behaving in weird ways. She developed the insomnia because she thought she was seeing things, and the mental fatigue just compounded the problem, which fed into the insomnia and made a horrible cycle. He prescribed Ambien and asked her to start weekly sessions to address the root causes of her insomnia. It seemed to help at first. She started sleeping again, which improved her mood considerably. She became a relatively normal junior high girl. Her grades climbed back to where they had been before I left, and everyone thought that was the end of it.
Then high school started. Freshman year, she began deteriorating again. She had problems sleeping through the night. She stopped taking her Ambien, insisting that when she did, she had horrific dreams. I came home for a winter break and stayed in my childhood room with her again. While I stayed there, she seemed to sleep lightly and would jump if I made any noise, but mostly she seemed okay. The last week of my winter break, I lost a pair of earrings and started digging around the room, trying to figure out where they had gone. In the process, I found multiple books in her room dealing with demons and the occult. When I confronted her about it, she started crying.
"I need to make it go away before you leave. I can't do this anymore. I need it to stop, she said. This sudden breakdown caught me off guard. Need what to stop? I asked. She held herself then, a haunted look in her eyes. It made me think she was a kid again. There's something that follows me at night, Nicole. I swear. During the day or while you're here, it doesn't come out, but when I'm alone at night, I can hear and see it. Hear and see what? I don't know. I don't see it directly. It's in the shadows on the wall and in my dreams when I sleep. It whispers all these awful things to me. It says it's gonna kill me, my family, my friends, anyone close to me. It tells me to give them up, that they don't really love me anyway. I can't. I can't. She started sobbing.
I hugged her then, protective big sister trying to make everything better. But I couldn't stay forever. I had to get back to school, start a new semester. Ashley begged me not to go, that she couldn't do this without me, but I had to go. I told Mom and Dad what she had told me, who were obviously concerned by this development, and shared it with her therapist. Our therapist said it was just the stress of starting at a new school, that if she got sleep she would improve. The shadows were obviously just her sleep-deprived brain making images out of nothing, and the whispers only seemed to occur in her dreams. If she started having visions or auditory hallucinations during the day, then we needed to contact him immediately, but not until... But until then, it was probably just stress and a lack of sleep.
Unfortunately, she didn't improve. After I left, she fell apart rapidly. She started falling asleep in school constantly. She was irritable and angry and started alienating her friends. She was so tired it became almost impossible to drag her out of bed in the morning. Her therapist said it was likely depression brought on by the insomnia and prescribed some new medication. It didn't help. By the time I came home for the summer, she was withdrawn and cold to everyone. I hoped that being there would help her sleep again, which maybe would cause her to come out of her shell. But for the first time in her life, she insisted I sleep somewhere else, telling me she didn't need me anymore. Heartbroken, I took the guest room.
A few weeks into my stay, I found myself lying awake at 2 a.m, unable to sleep. Knowing my sister was likely still awake and desperately wanting to talk to her, I padded down the hallway, the house unnaturally quiet. Her door was open, and as I turned to walk in, I stopped in my tracks. My sister, my darling baby sister, was hanging from her ceiling fan, swaying softly. I cried out, screaming for Mom and Dad. Their door burst open and they ran to my side, stopping at the sight in front of us. But it wasn't just my sister's body that brought up all this. Standing just behind her, barely visible in the moonlight, from her window was a figure. It was a darkness like flowing water without form, yet clearly there. It turned, and though it had no features, I know it saw us. It moved closer to us, just slightly, before melting into the floor, and it was gone.
Her death was ruled a suicide. The police didn't believe us. There was no evidence of anyone else in the house, no evidence of a struggle. Talks with teachers, friends, her therapist, even our own conversations with the therapist before this, all pointed to a troubled young girl who tragically took her own life. The therapist insists it was just our mind's way of coping with the tragedy, our love for Ashley causing us to conjure an alternative explanation. But we all saw it. We all know it was there. And it's not gone. Weeks later, long after we'd said our goodbyes and buried Ashley, it came back. I saw it in my room, watching from the corner. That night, the whispers began.